11th, 2004, and today we're introducing Mrs. Lucy Mae Seigler of Mims, Florida. Good morning, Lucy.
Good morning.
And tell us why you're here today.
Oh, I'm here to tell something about my family and about me in general in life, my living. And I just want to just let you know about my family.
Tell me something about your family and when they came here.
Oh, my family came here in the Mims area in 1921. They came from Valdosta, Georgia, and Jennings, Florida. And after they came here, they moved to Eugene Warren's home. Eugene House, across the street from Nevin's Fruit Company, which is located in Mims, Florida. From there they moved to LaGrange, a place called LaGrange, which was later named Titusville. And we lived in a house, two-story house, right across the street from where old Jess Parish Medical Center was. And later years, they moved where Joy Restaurant on US 1. And my father worked hard. He did citrus work. My mother washed and ironed clothes for people.
Okay, and what were their names?
My parents' name was Frank Bell and Mamie Bell.
Okay. Did your father work in the citrus groves?
Yes, he did, for many years.
Okay.
And worked real hard. And besides citrus grove, he would plant his own garden and raise his own vegetables and fruit, like strawberries and everything. So we didn't have to worry about too much. He raised hogs. He killed hogs twice a year. And he only went to the store when it was necessary for the other items. But so far as our fruit, vegetables, and everything, he was a hard worker.
Was there any grove in particular that he worked for?
Yes. I would hear him say Chalicali. Chalicali. And sometimes Mr. Peterson Grove, but mostly Chalicali.
He worked with Mr. Henry Strickland, and tell us a story about the two gentlemen, that Frank and Henry, and how they worked the groves.
Oh yes, I was a young person in school, and I would love to count my father's tickets from his grove work every day. So he and Mr. Henry Strickland was very good friends, and when they felt like it, they agreed that, okay, now tomorrow when we come to work, I'm gonna beat you picking fruit. I'm gonna pick over 100 boxes. And my father would always say, well, if you can do it, I can too. So they were getting a contest together, and this just brought joy to their heart to be able to see how many fruit they're gonna pick. And believe it or not, sure enough, when they're in the contest, my father and Mr. Strickland would pick about 100 boxes of oranges a day and 50 boxes of grapefruit. And that was a lot of picking fruit long and then. Yes, it was more money, but they were really concerned about that. And they said it brought joy to them because they felt like if they said they were going to get in a contest, they can pick faster and get more money. So that was a neat way of doing it.
So it brought joy to
both
the drudgery of and hard work.
That's right.
Picking fruit.
Yes.
And what did your mother do?
Well, my mother, she was a housewife, and she had to wash and iron clothes. And she would average about 15 bundles of clothes a week. And remind you, those days we didn't have nothing but pumps. We had to pump water. And when we come from school, our job was to fill up 3 55-gallon drums of water so my mother wouldn't have to worry about starting off her washing the next day without water. And that was our chores every day after school. And sure enough, she would average about 15 bundles of clothes a week. And one lady in particular, I loved to see her come because, as children, she would bring us candy.
What was her name?
Her name was Ethel Bowles. And she and her husband drove school bus also.
Mm-hmm. And what was a typical wash day? Was this done on Mondays?
It would sometimes be Monday through Thursday, and sometimes it would be Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. It all depends on how my mother felt about it.
Describe to me how the washing was done.
Okay, the washing was done. We had a large block, kind of like from a pine tree, and you call it a block. And she had a pot that she boiled clothes in, and when we take the clothes out the pot, we put it on this block, and we had what you call a balling block, a balling stick, and it was mostly for the heavier things like pants, men pants, and especially when they're dirty and they would work in the oil and so forth. We would take them out the pot and just try to ball the dirt out. So when we take them to the first tub, called tub number 1, we have tub number 1, 2, and 3, and full of water. So you have a rub board and you would rub them. And when we got through with all those processes, and they had bluing to go in the last water, something called bluing, and that would be the last rinse. And believe it or not, those dirty clothes would look white.
And I believe the bluing was a rinse that made them look white.
That's right. That's right. And you can see whether they're clean or not.
Right. And then, of course, during that, they all had to be starched and ironed, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And did she use a flat iron?
Oh, she had we had the heavy irons that you put on a coal pot.
Oh my!
Number 1, 2, and 3. Everything number 1, 2, and 3. So when they get hot, she had beeswax wrapped in some wax called beeswax. Wrapped in a cloth, and you rub it on the iron, and then she had another, like a towel where you can wipe the iron off, so you know when you start ironing you won't soil the clothes that she had sprinkled. And that's the way we had to do, and that was hard work.
It was hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the young people don't know what sprinkled clothes means.
You could either have a bottle with water in it, you have holes in the top, and you just sprinkle them down, and you roll them and put them in we didn't have a plastic bag then, but you just put them in a basket, cover them up, and as you get ready to iron a blouse or a skirt, you take that piece out. You put it on the ironing board, and you have your irons right there where you can just keep on changing. When the iron get cool, you change and get another iron. Okay. So that's what sprinkling is.
Okay, and the reason that you had to sprinkle clothes back then is because most of them were made out of cotton. We didn't have the luxury fabrics that we have today.
Yes.
And they would also be starched.
That's right, thin starch.
That's right.
Yes.
And would they boil the starch in the pot and then dip the clothes in it?
Yes, she had a large pot that she made her own starch, you know. You got the name brand for starch was Argo, and so she would make that starch, and then she had it in a special pot. So if it was a blouse, someone wanted starch, when it starts cool, you just dip it in there and squeeze it, put it on the line.
So laundry day was a long, hard day of work then.
No plan.
And usually they had a day of washing and a day of ironing.
Right, and sometimes washing and ironing the same day, if you have, depends on the clothes you have.
Let's get back to your family. How many brothers and sisters did you have, and approximately when were they born?
Okay, I had, there was 10 of us in all, 6 girls and 4 boys.
Okay.
And my oldest brother, Arthur, he's the oldest one living, but is one that preceded him in death before he was born. I have...
And when was Arthur born?
Arthur was born in 1915. He's 89 years old.
Okay. And he was born in Georgia?
Yes, he was born in some parts of Georgia. It might have been Dawson, Georgia.
Okay. Or were they born in? Hold it. Tell me about when in Florida?
Yes.
Okay? And
Yeah.
the first one born.
Yeah. Arthur was born in. Yeah. He was born in Jennings, Florida, and at the Lily, Annie, Clara. They the one came with my parents in 1921 to Mims.
Okay. And then the rest of the children were all born in the Mims area?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and what were their names?
Okay, Pearl, Cora, Frank, and myself.
Okay. And how many are living today?
It's 5 living today.
And
1 boy and 4 girls.
Okay. And I understand that the first child was stillborn, and then little. What happened to little Essie?
Oh yes, Essie was in a tragic accident with fire. He got burned, and he swallowed too much fire, and he just couldn't live.
Okay. And he at the age of how?
At 5 years old.
5 years.
5 years old. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Arthur, what did Arthur do for a living?
Okay, Arthur mostly helped with woodwork with Mr. Paul Puckett. He would cut wood, and they would saw wood. You know, he had to use a long saw and saw wood, and he would sell wood. Mr. Puckett did.
Oh.
And so, of course, Arthur's experience with that is that one day he thought he could use an axe better than Mr. Puckett. So when Mr. Puckett went a distance away, Arthur said, I know I could cut that wood, and I'm going to do it. So he took the axe, and he was going to chop the wood and surprise Mr. Puckett before he come back. But in a little bit, he found out the axe slipped, and it cut his foot. So he had a terrible time until he got married with his left foot.
All of the children and your parents were very active in St. James Missionary Baptist Church, which is still in Mims area. What do you remember about Reverend Massey?
Oh, Reverend Massey was really my mentor, my role model in every way. I thought was no one like Reverend Massey, that if he speak, you have to listen. And he loved children. He loved all the church, but he really dealt with the youth. And our parents could trust us to go anywhere with Reverend Massey and Ms. Massey because they know that we would be in good hands. And especially when we would go as a delegate to conventions and stuff and things, Reverend Massey would look out for us, and he said, don't worry, they're in good hands. And my parents believed that. And we knew that there was someone we could trust, and that's what life was all about then.
Evidently, he was a great leader, spiritual leader, because he was at St. James for many years.
Yes.
I believe it was 37 years.
Yes, he was.
And tell us about the youth center that he and Mrs. Josie James organized.
Yes. Since the youth wanted to go to conventions and everything, Mrs. Joseph Q. James and Reverend Massey got together, and they decided they were going to build a youth center for the youth so that we can have somewhere to go. So they found this place in Palatka, Florida. And it was talked about for a few years, and then after that they started building it. And when they built it, we were able to go, instead of going to different churches, we would go to our youth center in Palatka and have our workshops and conventions and whatnot, periodically, like 3 times a year.
Okay.
And today I'm not sure whether it's in use or not, but up until a few years ago, they were still going over there to attend the meetings.
Was it in Palatka or Lake Helen?
It was really in Lake Helen.
Okay.
Yes, it was really in Lake Helen. I was thinking about the other Baptist seminary.
Okay.
Lake Helen, Florida, that's right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what were you involved in organizing at the church?
After singing in the choir for many years and everything, and still even with singing in the choir. I formed the first Women's Day at our church. Other places were having Women's Day, and I thought that was something special to let women know that they were outstanding. And so in 1961, I think it was in January 1961, that's when I organized, I planned the first Women's Day meeting at St. James Baptist Church.
And what was that comprised of? What was a Women's Day?
Yeah, well, it's a special day set aside for us to have a program, and it was a way of raising money for the church. Whatever we did, it was for the church. And you find out how many speakers that you can have that can speak God's word and bring a message. So the first time I didn't understand it as well as I did later on. I had 3 speakers that day, and that was a lot of speaking, but people did come and they enjoyed it. But then after that, we said morning and evening. And so we felt that the men should be involved with this, and so we asked some of the deacons if they would be let them have it. And they said, well, yes, if you could give us the morning. I said, that's fine. We'll take the afternoon. So from then on, about 3 years after we started our Women's Day, the men joined us, and we celebrated Men and Women's Day.
Wonderful.
And that was from 1961 to 1978 when I really turned it loose.
There was many activities that the parishioners participated in.
Yes.
At church. Did you also have youth programs?
Oh yes, we had a youth program, and that was from our Missionary Society. I was over that for a long period of time. Also, Missionary president, and we would have our Matron Society and Red Circles and Sunshine Band. All that was a part of our program in the Missionary Society, and we go to conventions and they'll participate in the different programs at the state convention and as well as the district.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Do you remember anything about the old church structure of St. James, where it was located in the early days before they built the present church?
It was a church, a church right side of it. I wasn't there when Reverend Bernie, my mother's pastor, my father's pastor. I don't know about that, but in 1964 is when we built the St. James that we are where we are now. But the old building was right-sided, a wooden building.
Yeah.
So.
Do you remember the Abrams or any of those people that were involved in the church at that time?
Oh yeah. Well, the one I remember is like Mr. Eugene Abrams, who's deceased now, and I remember George Abrams, Coretha Abrams, and I remember all the Abrams of that. But the older Abrams, I didn't know them.
Okay. And who were some of the other elders in the church when you participated?
Ezekiel Grant, now deceased. That's Fabel Warren's father. Mr. Henry Strickland, his father, I can't think of his name right now, but Wash. You call him Wash Seigler. I knew them, and I knew Miss Lucy Strickland, that's Henry Strickland's wife. It was Minnie Grant. I remember a lot of older people. Maddie Mitchell, she was a light to us in the community. And you get so much inspiration out of those older folks. And so I always find myself asking questions with them, because they would just look you in the eye straight and tell you, but child, this is like this, and I like that, because it's joy when you can have that confidence and assurance in anybody.
During your youth, do you remember where people were baptized at the church?
They went to the, they called it the Rock Pit.
Okay.
And it's over there where the water tower is in Mims. It's a little place, and I guess it's covered up now, but it was clear water. It was so clear you could just see an ant crawling at the bottom, and that's where we were baptized, because we didn't know anything, or we didn't have a church pool, or either they would go to the river.
The Indian River?
Yes.
And where about on the Indian River did they
Probably where they putting those houses up, you know, where they're building the condominiums and different places.
Okay.
But it was more near Titusville Pier, not far from that park.
Not far from the park?
Yes.
Okay.
Somewhere in that nature.
Okay. Tell me about when you were a student. As I understand, Annie, your sister, and so you would go with Harry T. Moore and recite poetry. Tell me about those days.
Oh yes, I was young, but I was a good listener, and I know Harry T. Moore would pick Annie up, and they said, well, they'll notify him about a month ahead of time he wanted them to go and speak. And I know Coletti Warren and Eugenia Warren, Helen Strickland, Ari Frazier, Ari Bell Frazier then, Annie, and then another lady named Louise Power, I believe it was. And they all wouldn't go at one time, but he'd take so many this time and so many another time, and they would speak. And I know my sister had a poem called Noah Built the Ark by James Weldon Johnson, and it was about 5 or 6 typewritten pages long, and she learned every bit of it. And until she, even until her death in 92, she was still reciting poems as people really wanted her to come and say that particular poem. And it was a good spiritual poem. It's a very good poem. But I remember that because she was saying it all the time.
And she memorized.
Oh, memorized
6
it.
pages?
Yes, right. Memorized it. Good memory.
And Mr. Moore would take the youth to different churches, or
yes,
and they would do these orations.
Yes, I remember one time she had to go to, I don't know, it was Tampa or Clearwater or something. Wherever he took, but yes, he would take them around to different churches in the community too.
How wonderful! Yes,
he was really good.
Yeah. Tell me about yourself. Where did you go to high school?
Oh,
school.
At school, I started school. I believe it was back in '36 at Titusville. It wasn't called Titusville High School then, but it was called Titusville Negro School. I believe it was. And at those days, we couldn't ride the bus. We had to walk. And we walked, get up early in the morning. We walked, I guess about 2.5 miles to school. And some days when my father couldn't work in the citrus grove, he would come and pick us up.
Oh my!
But it was sunshine and pretty. We just walked home, and that was a lot of walking. But I guess I was fortunate more than my other sisters and brothers who used to have to travel from that point to Mims, where Kyla is now.
Oh.
So, but we wanted an education, and my mother was interested in us learning, so she said it'll be better after a while, and it was.
So you went to elementary school in Titusville also?
Yes, from 12th grade, elementary to 12th.
Okay, and then you went to high school in Titusville?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and as I understand, you went on to college. Where did you attend college?
Yeah, I attended college at Florida Normal College in St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
And I went there. Our church always give money for a student who want to go further as a little scholarship, like $200, $300, that was a lot of money. And so when we found out that our church really didn't have any money, they thought they had money up there, but when I got up there, St. Augustine, I found out they didn't have any money. So I had to call my mother and let her know. And she said, well, you just stay there, it'll be a way made. And so she went to see someone, and I was able to stay there. And then I was a person that I wanted to help my mother out and help myself. So I asked the president, was there anything that I can do that they can help me to help my mother for me to stay here. And so he said, sure. And so he gave me a job, like serving people. When they had a lot of people eating dinner, I would serve, and then sometimes I prepare a meal for him. And he just wanted to do something for me to help me out. He said, if you that willing to want to stay in school, I'm going to help you. So that's how I stayed in college for a while until Mother, got on her feet.
Mm-hmm.
But.
And then where did you go?
Oh, I went to, after I left Florida, Norma, they cut out home economics, and that's what I wanted. So I went 2 years to Clark University in Atlanta, Georgia.
Uh-huh.
And after that, I found out they were going to take 9 hours from me that I needed. So I found out Savannah State would give me my 9 hours back. So I took off and end up in Savannah State College in Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, so you had quite an experience,
yes,
didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And when did you graduate?
I graduated in 1952.
Okay.
And when I graduated in 1952, I had this job waiting for me because they wanted me to teach on my experience from playing basketball.
Oh, you played basketball in school?
In high school, mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So where did you go? Where was your first job teaching?
It was teaching at Monroe High School in Cocoa, Florida.
Okay, and what did you teach?
Oh, I taught elementary. I'm sorry, I didn't teach elementary at first, but I just taught. It was just in general basic subject. It was a part of it was elementary because it's junior high, 7th grade. Okay. And we had a situation where 4 teachers had to teach in one auditorium, so we just had to teach low enough not to disturb the other person, but it was a crowded condition, but children did learn. And from my experience, like I said, in basketball, they hired me as an extracurricular coordinator for teaching the children how to play basketball. And they didn't know anything about how to hold a ball or nothing like that. So after school, they would give me $75 a month to train the children to play basketball. And I did that, and believe it or not, after 3 years, they won championship.
Oh, and I imagine the school was just as proud.
Yes, they were proud. And then they tried to ask me to go on and get physical ed on my certificate. I told them I didn't want that. I just wanted to play from experience that I had in high school, and then if I can teach someone else how to hold a ball, that's what I want to do. And I had a choice to see. They wanted me to, after the first year, they could see a lot of learning. Mm-hmm. And they said, it's your opportunity now to go on and get it on your certificate, and nobody could come in and take it. But I have to have hired people to be qualified. I said, yes, give them a chance. So all the person had to do is to come in and take over and take the students to the tournament. And then during that second year, Evelyn Bell, Evelyn Williams, who is now Evelyn Williams Bell, the same principal, when she came to Cocoa, he had asked her for her to be my assistant in helping me. We worked together, but everything was just great.
Oh, that's wonderful. Mm-hmm. So the children were very proud to have those accomplishments in their school.
Yes.
And who was your principal at Monroe High School?
Oh, B.A. Morris.
Okay.
B.A. Morris.
Tell us about how good of a basketball player you were in high school.
Well, I averaged, really, when I felt like playing, I averaged about 20 to 22 points a game.
That's fantastic. I understand you were quite a hot shot playing
basketball. I really could leap during those days. And I love stealing the ball from somebody. When they dribble, when they think they have it, I have it and gone. Yeah. And sometimes I stand to the center line when I know it's a second or two, and sometimes it just straight nets. And I said, well, that was this experience. I love basketball. I really do.
That's wonderful. And then you met the love of your life, and tell us when you got married. And what was his name?
Yeah, well, I knew James all the time in high school, and I knew he couldn't go to school like I did because he had to work for his parents and everything. I can understand that, but he was my special person all along, and we never did act like we were serious about each other, but we both had a crush for each other. And so, but he went to the service, and he did all that before we got married and everything. So he would keep in touch with me and write me, want to know how I was doing and so forth. And so after he got out of service, that's when we really got connected, and I knew by then what I wanted to do. And so,
and when were you married?
We was married in '54, I believe, June the 6th, 1954.
And your sister Cora was quite a seamstress, as I understand.
Yeah, I wanted to do something for Cora because I had started teaching school, and I wanted to let her know I appreciate. See, because everybody in the family, they helped me with either spending change or something, you know, they would send to me, and I wanted to show my appreciation. So I asked her, would she like to go to dressmaking? That's a course, you know. If she didn't want to go for anything else, just take up dressmaking. Although you know how to sew, but you need it. And so she said, well, I can. And I said, well, I want to do that for you. So 2 years I sent her to dressmaking, to take dressmaking, and she, believe it or not, she made my wedding dress. I mean, it was made well, with the scallops and the train sweeping and everything, and I wanted a rainbow wedding. So I married in light, very light pink, and the rest of the bridesmaids had on different colors like peach and orange, and peach and aqua and purple, you know, this rainbow color. And at that time they had all of them had a wide hat, and a string of pearls, and they had a big sash that you could tie in the back, and it would hang down to the end of the dress almost. That was beautiful, and everybody just had a good time. It was I enjoyed my own wedding really, and the same principal, B.A. Morris. Since my brother couldn't be in place, I asked him to give me away, and he proudly did.
Oh, how wonderful! And what church were you married in?
St. James Baptist, the new church.
Okay. And who was the reverend at the time?
Reverend Massey. Reverend Massey still was. Okay. Yes, he the one gave me away.
Okay. And then you went on to after you were married, you went on to continue teaching.
Yes.
And then you went into ministry also.
Yes, I continued to teach at Monroe High School, and
where else did you teach, by the way? You taught at several schools.
Oh, I went to Monroe High, Clear Lake Junior High, and Rockridge High. Then I taught night school, you know, occasionally at Kennedy Junior High and Merritt Island High.
So you just about covered all the schools, didn't you?
Yeah, that was teaching them clothing and sewing, you know, at night.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
Okay, and then when you went into the ministry to do evangelist work.
Well, it's more like a mission, but it's still a part of that too, evangelist. But it was missionary. I love mission, and I love going into nursing homes and cheering the people up, encouraging them.
And what was the name of your ministry?
Open Hand Outreach Ministry. That's what was organized in.
And it was called Outreach?
Open Hand.
Open Hand Outreach.
Two separate, Outreach Ministry.
Okay. And did you have a place that you served, did your work at a building?
Yes. At first we, the Masonic Lodge took us in and said we can use their building.
This is the one on Main Street?
That Main Street, that's right. That was the first one. Yeah, Main Street. And later year, I think '94, when the Masons had to have their building for their own use, so we had to find another place. And so I talked with Betty Parrish, and that's how we were able to get our building in Mims up until 2002, I believe it was.
Okay, and where was that located?
That's located on Harry Moore and Harry Moore and Wiley Avenue in Mims. At the end of Harry Moore and across the street is from Wiley.
Now, was that part of the migrant orange picker camp?
Yeah, I understand. Years ago, the Bahamians used to come over and work, and that's what they used, because you could see, you can see a stove how it was in the wall and everything. So they had beds and everything. I never did see it per se, but my husband always would check out things, and that's where they lived. And then I guess they went back after fruit picking so many years. They decided to go back home. But that building was a strong building. But now it's just need to be demolished, I guess, in some way.
Yeah. I understand on Tuesday mornings you would go there and give out clothes.
Yes,
to the community,
yes, Tuesday morning. It's hard to get the help you needed, but if I could get one or two people to go with me, meet me there, I'll always be proud. And if nobody showed up, then I would just sit in my car outside the fence and read my Bible, Sunday school lesson, and stay a couple of hours and go back home.
Okay. And you also worked as part of your ministry, working with young ladies in parenting skills, or in
as a part of my class.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you work?
Yes, I did. We had child care. Showed films of how children are born, and to 10th grade through 12th grade, with parents' permission, and they were happy about that because they thought that was very good for them to understand how a child is born. And believe it or not, some parents who had had 3 and 4 children had never saw a film on that, and I would have them to come in during my planning period, maybe once a week, and show them the film. And they said they were highly educated because of this class.
And that was good for the teenagers to combat the pregnancy problem, correct? And
even nowadays I meet several students who tell me, say, if it wasn't for that class, I don't know what I would have done when I had my child, or my children. So it was rewarding.
What has your life been like in the last few years? The changes that you've seen and your ministry work. What are you doing at the present time, and what's different now from when you used to do your ministry work in the early days?
Okay, now I'm more relaxed now because I just be led by what God want me to do. When He said turn something loose, I turn it loose. When He give me something, I just go for it, and be obedient. But I can see change in students. If you're talking about children, I don't visit like I should back to the schools that I left, but I do know I get information from other students that it's much harder for them to cope with situations now more than it was then, because they were at a point in life when I was in school, you had to be firm and positive, but children would listen then. But now they come with their own agenda sometime, and that they want to outrule the teacher. And she says sometimes they can't comprehend like they want to because of different students that want to do their own thing. So it makes it bad for the rest of them. But out of all that, children will learn, and they can learn. I don't care what the situation's like, they can learn. But I hope it's better now. Like I say, I'm not there to see everything, but it's harder on the student now.
And as I understand your ministry work as a missionary, you go to the nursing homes quite often.
Oh,
and I know that you see a lot of the old timers
yeah.
that are now in nursing homes that you remember used to be very productive members of the Mims community.
Yes.
And how many, what is a typical week like for you going to the nursing homes, etc.?
Well, it's about at least twice a week I'm going to some kind of, I have 5 in general right now that I really go and try to make myself as a part of their family, because some of them don't have families. And they encourage me, I think, as much as I encourage them, because when I leave the nursing home, I feel like I have done my part as God intended for me to do. And it's just good to go and talk with them, and they want you to talk. And some of them want you to pray, whatever they want you to do. You don't push yourself off on anybody, but I just know I have to go. And just speaking kind words to them, reading some of them might want you to read the Bible, just say a few verses. You don't have to just take the Bible out, but you could just say a few words to them. And they are happy when they see you. And when they want to know why you stayed away so long. And sometimes I was just there last week, but they want you to just hover on them. But I think that's good. And so at Tazewell Rehab not long ago, it's a lady I went to visit with her, and she just didn't want me to leave. And I was talking with her about 15 or 20 minutes, and that's a good while when you have to go to see someone else. And so she didn't want me to leave. Said, I tell you what, you are in your wheelchair, so why don't you follow me? And she did just that, and enjoyed it. And she wanted to know now, what day you gonna come back early enough so I can follow you to those rooms? Said she wouldn't come inside the room, but she stayed on the outside till I got through. And I thought that was really rewarding to me to know that she really wanted me to follow me,
Well, I know you bring a lot of joy and comfort in your visits to the elderly at the nursing homes, and I know they look forward to you coming. And it's a great service that you do to bring God's word to them, and the comfort that you give to them. Not only the comfort, but the friendship that you give to them, and they look forward to your visits. I understand that also in all of your lifetime, you can bake up a storm and cook up a storm and make all kinds of jams and jellies and cakes and pies and cookies and all kinds of other things. And I'd like you to tell me about a very interesting story and we call these God's intervention into some of our times, about the recent storm, storm, and about God's gift to you, and what came of that.
Oh, yes, it was after. We really had a season of storms. I think everybody aware of that. And after Storm Charlie, that was exciting to me to, and God took us through all the storms, and I thank Him so much for it. But after Storm Charlie, I looked out my window and I wanted to know where in the world did that bundle of hay come from. It just looked like hay from my distance, and I couldn't get out there fast enough to see what it was. And previous weeks I had been chopping up, another lady had been helping me pull out grapevines and throwing them in the trash and everything. But it was a patch of just plain vines that had connected itself with some plants that were sticking. I didn't want to bother the plants then. So I said, well, we'll wait on that because there's no grapes out there nowhere, and they wild. I don't want no wild grapes. And so during the night, the wind had pulled the grapevines out and rolled them up just like a bundle of hay. And to my amazement, I looked, and there's thousands and thousands of ripe grapes was in this hay-like stack. And where they was pulled, you could still see many, many more grapes left in the same area. And I said, Lord, I just don't know how this happened. all these grapes in here, and it's just like every cluster was about 3 inches apart, wrapped up in all these vines. And I said, let me go get my pot. And I got a large pot and took my clippers, and I clipped so many vines that had the grapes on it, and I picked them off in clusters. And I just picked it. I was just tired of picking, and so then I heard it thunder. It was about 3 hours I was out there picking grapes, and then I went in the house, and my job was to take each little grape off the cluster and put it. I mean, I had a job, but it was interesting to know. And I said, well, what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make some jelly. I said, it's been a long time, but I'm gonna make me some jelly, because I know that this has got to be a gift from the Lord through this wind. And the Spirit spoke to me then and said, in Genesis 8:22 was saying that while the earth is plentiful, there'll be seed time and harvest, summer and winter, night and day, but none will be wasted. And then the Lord said, look at Leviticus, Exodus 23:16, and it says something about restoring your harvest, and then Leviticus 23:10 says something about harvesting. But that's the 3 that He gave me to look up, and so I said, well, and He said, and then the Spirit spoke to me and said, I have sent you your harvest. I have sent you your harvest. And He know that if He sent me anything, and I could make jelly out of anything. But it wasn't about the jelly. I know it's something He's maybe trying to tell me through this. Just like I sent you this, I'll send you anything else, you know. I don't know details, and I'm trying to figure out, but I do know I wouldn't have known grapes was there. And I wouldn't have known if He hadn't put in that bundle, because I couldn't see nothing. And maybe they were growing all the time underneath. But I have, all I know, I have the grapes, and I made 52 jars of jelly and sent it to friends, different places. And this is the jelly. This is the jelly that I made. I bought jars, this size, 4 ounces, 8 ounces, and sent them off. And this was made August the 30th when I made this jelly. And I named it Storm Charlie Wild Grape Jelly, and it is delicious.
And this is the jar that Lucy has brought to me, so I can have a taste of this divine gift, and I'm so happy that you brought it to me.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
That's a wonderful story of God's intervention, and at a time where we need something of comfort, and
yes.
I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there anything else that you feel that we would like to tell us about your life or God's work that you've done, or anything that you can relate about your family?
Okay. Well, the work that He has given me now, I still have open hand outreach ministry, but I'm doing it mostly through prayer at my home once a week. It's open to anybody who want to come. If they don't come, it's open to me, because He gave it to me, and I'm going to be obedient to what He wants me to do. But there are from 2 to 3 people that come weekly for prayer, and then He let me know not long ago when I was meditating that it's not about who come. He was going to send the ones that need to come at a certain time. So maybe the time is not now, but I don't get hung up on numbers, but I do like for the righteous to be with me and impart the word or pray together. That's what it's all about. It's about keeping your eyes focused on Jesus, and that's what I'm going to do. Whether it's me or 2 or 3 more, it doesn't matter.
And what is your message to the youth of today? How do we capture the youth today to try to get them in the right direction, follow the right direction?
Yes, well, the ones I talk with all the time, I encourage them to just be patient and keep on coming to church and be among people who are of a righteous standard. Don't be with people that they know not going to mean them any good. So if they keep their eyes focused on the Lord and be a part of the fellowship with Christians that know what's right, then that'll be the answer to them more than anything else. But to keep on reading the Word themselves and learn all you can, because we're at situations now in churches that really pass the Word on, just like all our community churches do. But grab a hold of it and keep focused.
That's a good message.
Mm-hmm.
The overview of what your family legacy is, and what you would like to leave as the family legacy. What would that be, Lucy?
Okay. To keep living, and there's nowhere else to go but just go to God when you want your answer, because He is the answer to all our problems, be it great or small. We just have to serve God so He can be a light for us all. And my legacy is to continue to leave a history behind. It's just like when I leave here, I want somebody to know something good I have done in the community. And it's not, and you do it from your heart. It's a heart thing, helping someone along the way. I don't know.
Okay. What would you like to say that or leave as the legacy of the Bell family? What did they leave with you and the rest of the family?
Okay. Well, they left with me joy in my hearts, joy in our hearts as we exemplify the role model that they played in our lives, and to love one another. If you love one another, you'll be able to help someone along the way. They trusted God for everything, and they did not waver when it came to teaching us how to be good church leaders. And to me, I could remember them saying that follow your own mind. Don't follow nobody else's, because if you don't know, you ask me, and we'll direct you. But don't follow anybody else's mind but yours. So they were just role models for us as they trusted God for our upbringing and everything.
Mm-hmm. Lucy, and you have followed that role model, and you are a wonderful spiritual leader of the community, and you've done so much good work in the community, and I'm so happy to have you as a friend.
Mm-hmm.
And let me ask you this. I know talking with you, we've talked several hours about many different subjects related to God in the spiritual world. What are some of the poems that you are a wonderful poem writer, and what are some of the poems that you have written that are spiritual? Do you have a short one that you'd like to share with us?
I did write a lot of poems, and I don't know, I can't think of one right now, but I do know a poem.
Okay.
There's a portion of it. It's called The Christian Way.
Okay.
And it goes like this. You may wonder why I'm writing the things I have to say, but I can tell you now it's all about this Christian way. Some people seem to doubt it and say it's not just right, and often talk about us when we are not in sight. Sometimes the devil tempts me and says all in vain to try to be a Christian and walk in Jesus' name. But Jesus softly whispered, I'll take care of you. Then I look up to heaven with my hopes bright and new. I want to do the things that's just right, but to do these things, the devil we must fight. And sometimes the sky is cloudy, and I can't see my way. But then when the devil stopped me, I just have to kneel and pray.
Oh,
amen.
That's wonderful. And when did you learn that?
Oh, I learned that years ago when I was about 20 years old.
Oh my goodness, and you remember
Yeah.
it so long.
And
What is your, go ahead.
I was trying to think of the poem that I did about my mother. No more complaining about my dear mother. After my mother passed, to bring comfort to my heart, God gave me this poem. It said, "No more complaining about my dear mother. I cannot sit here and complain about my mother long ago, for God knows in heaven I really loved her so. But as life journeys on, I can truly understand that God knows best for us all, for everything is in His hand. Jesus, please give me strength, faith, and mind to serve you like my mother. She put you first in her life, was always humble, nice, and kind. It is good to be like my dear mother, for she was bought with a price. No more complaining ever on this earth about this or the other, for I know in my heart I want to live and to be like my dear mother." And music was also set to that.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And I know you wrote that from the heart with God's Spirit and guidance. That's beautiful. When we had talked about hymns, what are some of your favorite hymns, old-time hymns in the church?
Well, I like Amazing Grace. And in the hymn book, Precious Lord, Take My Hand, Just a Closer Walk with Thee. Just all of them. I Need Thee Every Hour. I need it. Yes, beautiful. It's so, but that's my favorites. The favorite ones. And then Because He Lives, I Can Face Tomorrow, and I bet on that.
Do you remember as you were a child? I know a lot of mothers, as they did their housework or did their chores, they would hum spirituals or they would sing spirituals while they were doing their work. Do you remember your mama ever singing some of the spirituals as she did her work?
Yeah, I used to hear her sing, "I'm going to trust in the Lord till I die." Now that was one of her favorite, and she was singing over and over. And I always enjoy in the background listening to her sing, and that's what she. And it was several more I wrote down, but I can't think about that now. But that was one of her favorites. "I'm going to trust in the Lord till I die."
Well, this has been a wonderful day talking with you, Lucy. And is there anything that you would just say in closing?
Okay. And in closing, I would just like to let everybody know, just live your life where God can use you. If you can be a help to someone along the way, your living will not be in vain. Therefore, I ask you to just keep me in prayer, and I'll keep you in prayer as God direct our lives. And to love one another, that's the only way God's going to receive you. Love has to be in the heart, not from the lips.
As I recall, you and your mother also raised two additional children in the family. Would you please tell me about that?
Oh, yes. Joanne Moore, now it used to be Joanne Bell, that's Arthur Bell's daughter. At the age of 5, when her mother passed, we took her in and raised her until she got married. And she was very alert around the house. She loved her grandmother, and anything she needed, after starting teaching school, I would help my mother with her, and she didn't have to want for anything. And we tried to teach her spiritually as well as give her what she needed, not what she wanted all the time. And after she got grown, then she decided she'd get married.
Joanne's education was important also, and when did she finish high school?
Okay. She finished high school. I can't think of the year,
Okay.
but she did finish high school, completed high school, and went to Jacksonville and worked a little while, and then came back home, and she married the late Charles McCullough. That was her first husband, and they had 4 children in the family.
Do they all live in the area?
Well, mostly like they're in the Orlando, Sanford area.
Okay. And then she married.
Then in later years, she married Horace Moore, the husband she has now.
Okay. And they still live in the Mims area?
Still live in the Mims area.
Okay. What was the other little girl's name? In fact, she is in the photograph of Reverend Massey in the congregation.
Oh, that's Martha Jean. Was Stroman Allen now? Martha Jean Stroman Allen. She's the one that we raised from 4 years old. Same as Joanne. We raised her from 5 years old. So she has children now, and maybe adopted children as well. So she's doing great, and she always was a lovable little girl. My mother taught her always taught them truth and love. That was the key. You must tell the truth, and you must love.
And how did she come to live with them?
Well, one day my mother was visiting my brother-in-law, Champ Pittman, who's deceased now, sister, and she said, "You have so many children. Why don't you give me this one?" And that was Martha Jean. And she said, "You can have her." And Mother thought it was just her saying something. She said, "No, I mean, let me take her home and let her spend a week and bring her back." She said, "You can have her, do what you want with her, because I know she'll be in good hands." And so Mother took her at her word, and she told her she didn't want to adopt her because it was too close home, and one day she might want to, she wouldn't want to take that much from her, but just let her keep her. So we kept her as long as she stayed with us, and that was 15 years. And so she decided she wanted to get married. So we had to consult her mother, and she said, let her do what you think is best. So we raised Martha Jean till she got 15. So she got married, and then she moved away, stayed many years. So her husband just died last year, so Horace, his name was Horace also. But she made her quite a young lady out of herself.
Okay.
And we're proud of her.
And she lives back in the area also?
Yes, she lived back in the area in Titusville.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And also Reverend Massey was an inspiration to her upbringing also?
Yes, that was her church also.
Okay. Did she participate in any of the youth choirs or anything when she was young?
I think she started out singing, but I don't believe she finished. She started out singing in the choir as children, church.
So you and your mother raised 2 more children in addition to the 10 children that your mother had.
Yes, right.
That's quite a household.
Right. Yes, it was. Mm-hmm.
Was it? Did everyone share in the chores?
Yes. Oh, yes. Joanne and Martha had to share just like we did. It wasn't no distinction. As long as you had hands, you had to work. Mm-hmm. Had to use them. So they weren't lazy because it couldn't be.
So did you regard these 2 children that you helped raise as sisters?
Yes, sisters are your own children.
Are your own children?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And
and we still have that relationship, close relationship.
Well, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And you still visit and
yes,
and have a friendship together.
That's right, all the time. Mm-hmm.
And is there anything else that you think of that you would like to add?
No, except I know all of them respect me as a mother, and if it's nothing but birthday and Christmas, they're gonna think about me. Not that I'm looking for anything, but they will recognize me and let me know that they love me. And Mother's Day, they think about me a whole lot.
Well, that's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. And I'm sure that you gave them a lot of motherly love and guidance through the years.
Yes, because it says give and to give back to you. So
yes,
that's what my desire always has been to help someone, not only family member, but anybody that's in need.
Well, thank you, and praise God be with you.
Yeah, thank you.